People second guessing if Lex faked the extra message portion from the Kryptonians. You don't hear people talking about how Jimmy and Perry know Superman is Clark at the end with their last joke about Lois and Clark dating for 3 months. Who could be DCU's big bad they are working towards? The real question, where is Batman, LOL?
Yeah.
In Gotham.
In
That's
Gotham.
right. Welcome back to the break room. Superman currently has a 93% popcorn meter rating, and word of mouth is solid. You could say it's firm as steel. Nobody would say that. We've seen the movie. We're gonna get into it. Hit that graphic. Oh, it's a lingering question.
Graphic.
Ooh, this question will linger.
Ooh,
You got my curiosity wrapped around your finger.
Oh.
Do you have
To let it linger. Why don't you answer that question?
Demonetized.
I know. Cranberries are just like
I know.
there with their finger on the
Especially
trigger.
when it's that accurate recreation of it. I mean, it might have been you playing your tape. You know what I mean? Had it on tape. Okay, I'm Zach Huddleston. Joining me today, we can only get drunk under a red sun together. It's Erik Voss.
What's a tape? What's a cassette tape,
Don't
Zach? Zach's got it on Betamax over there.
That's right.
We'd have a movie on Betamax, not a tape.
And her parents sent her here to form a harem to take over the world. It's Gina Ippolito.
I'm 25% of the way there. I won't tell you what 25%.
And we're saying that a harem is a minimum of 4 people.
Is that the legal definition?
So Three's Company, Four's a harem?
That's right.
Secret harem, secret harem.
I say keep your harems public. You know what I mean? If you whatever you're willing to do at home, okay.
If you have to put your likes on public, your harem should also be on public.
If you got to be horny on Maine, you got to be harem on Maine.
Also, if you have a harem, you have built-in likes. Like every time you post a picture, at least the 4 people in your harem are like, we have to go and like Zach's post.
Unless your harem is just all your burner accounts, right?
Yeah. But then I think you would be even more likely to like your own stuff.
Also, do you think Lex was particularly offended by this just because of hair being included in it?
Oh,
That's my lingering question. Okay, we're gonna answer some of the questions from the film. Questions have been brought up in the comments of our wonderful Superman breakdown video that went live on the new Rockstars channel on Friday. Erik and the whole team did such an awesome job on that maybe came up in our review video from last Friday here on the Breakroom channel and from our live audience watching on both YouTube and Twitch. Send in lingering questions, theories, anything like that. We can't wait to dig into it. We've got our own personal ones too. Before we get in further, we want to shout out to nerdriot.shop. Erik's wearing our awesome crypto-inspired, peanuts-inspired shirt.
Doghouse of Solitude.
I love
It's so cool. This is so
It is
fun.
really
Yes,
cool.
and Gina's got our secret identity shirt. A little bit of Clark, little bit of Kal-El.
Like Face
and then
Off.
I've got
Half
an
the shirt has
off-brand-
hypno glasses. I can't make heads or tails of it.
Can't see it. And then I've got an off-brand Fantastic Four shirt.
I love that one too. That's like a good
yeah.
future foundation. That's what their banners look like in the movie. Yeah.
Find these designs and more over at nerdriot.shop. But let's get into some of the questions here. I think a big one that has come up multiple times in comments and even in our discussions, people second guessing if Lex faked the extra message portion from the Kryptonians, right? It's kind of brushed off by Mr. Terrific. It's like, nope, I know experts, and it's authentic. It's not faked, right? And we never see any faking, but of course, like, he's got the engineer plugged in. She's doing all kinds of internal biomechanic trickery there to dig out the message. What are your thoughts on that?
I think this is like born out of a desire not to make. I think the people who think that it is faked online are very uncomfortable with the idea that Kal-El's parents are bad people. I think like it's not usually the portrayal that we see. Although like if you go back to the 1978 one, his parents are like, look at these like weird monkey idiots on this planet. he'll be totally superior there. Like they're not hiding the fact that they sort of look down on humanity. So it's not totally new. James Gunn just sort of took it a little bit further. But I think this speaks to like people not wanting them to be evil, but they are. Like to me, this is 100%. It's an authentic message. There's no hint anywhere in the movie that it was faked. I think at some point James Gunn will be like, yeah, it's not, you guys. Like I think he'll just confirm it. I think this is wishful thinking on the audience's part.
Yeah, they don't want it to be true, and I think in a lot of people's minds they think of the Kryptonians as just like this sadly tragic doomed people who just couldn't read the signs of their own environmental collapse or Rao going supernova or whatever the origin story was in their heads. And I think, maybe they view something like Mark Waid's Birthright storyline as just like an interpretation of the legend, but not necessarily canon in their heads. And it is a lot to swallow. I'll admit, it is like, it's probably James Gunn's boldest choice with Superman to establish that Jor-El and Lara Lorvan have that kind of mindset towards Earth, but also it's gone. And I think we have an opportunity to explore it in Supergirl. And I think I'm really excited to see what Jor-El's brother had to say about that. I don't think it speaks for all of Krypton. And I think the Kryptonians of Argo City might have felt differently. And maybe that's why there is that division between Argo City and Kandor or Kryptonopolis or whatever the other cities were. But it is a lot. So I don't think it was faked. I think that's why James Gunn did add this clunky exposition to say no. But I do think a part of reason you can come after this movie is like the shifts of public opinion and media narratives happen within 30 seconds in this movie. The whole movie takes place within 6 days. And
I mean, listen,
it's crazy how fast public opinion shifts in this movie.
How fast some people turned against Trump when he wouldn't release the Epstein list a couple days ago.
It did happen very fast.
If you're playing Breakroom bingo at home, you can go ahead and circle that Epstein square.
I want to make sure I bring it up in both shows. Look, that was like a matter of hours. They were like, do I hate this guy now?
To that point, Erik, you already brought up Supergirl, and I know that was one of the other biggest questions, right? Were her parents also on the same track? Did she know about that message? Because obviously it was news to Kal-El, right? Like, is she aware of that? Was this just Superman's parents? Were the rest of the Kryptonians were not thinking this? Maybe his parents were just colonious jerks or whatever, right?
I think James Gunn did write that speech, both halves of it, deliberately. And there was a clue in that. And I think we should do a whole other investigation of this as like a new Rockstars video. But the fact that they say, we love you more than heaven, we love you more than land, was such like an interesting usage of words with the diction there. Like, I read that and I might be overthinking it. I often do. But we love you more than land almost feels like it's like we love you more than our planet, and just in the translation, they didn't have an exact word for it. So really they're saying we love you more than Krypton, but like it came out as land. And I think take as many wives as you can might have had just like an alternate, like a bit of not an A to A translation.
Spread your love.
It could be spread your love. Make
love.
as many friends as you can.
Sure.
Take on as many partners. Who knows? Maybe the Kryptonian culture just had like more of a platonic sense of a partner. I know it sounds like I'm making excuses for these crazy fascists and imperialists. I'm just saying like maybe it does get more nuanced once we hear their side of the story, and that maybe it did come out through this translation the way it did, and it does sound really creepy, but it could have had just like a different tone to it.
And I'll say, like, my take on it is a big theme of this movie is this guy, who's not a human at all, is the most human of us, right? And it's these Kansan parents that really formed him, and it's not these kind of like whatever Viltrumite-esque aliens, right? And so like I think it's totally real, and I think it was properly interpreted and whatever.
That's it. I think Kara does have a secret boy harem. I think she's got like 80 husbands, and she is getting around, and they all are just grateful to be on the group chat.
I think like I also think that again. More than any of the movies, this movie, James Gunn seems to be influenced the most by the Richard Donner films. Like more so than the ones that came after that. And again, like the Kryptonians are not portrayed as these like enlightened, kind people. I mean, 3 of them are mass murderers that get sent off to the Phantom Zone, which, by the way, is a terrible form of punishment. Like you're like this enlightened society or whatever is imprisoning people in like basically an endless hell. And then even when Jor-El is like, hey, by the way, like our planet's destroyed, they're like, if you ever bring this up again, we are going to kill you, your wife, and your baby. Like they're not all knowing, all peaceful people. They're dicks. Like they're a bunch of floating heads that like pass judgment on people. And again, like, they're just like not a benevolent
It's not a
species.
utopia.
It's
Yeah.
not a utopia. So I think
They've got
people
their own
going into
problems.
this and being like, oh, but his parents, and also, in narrative structure, finding out that your parents are not perfect is very much on brand with James Gunn.
Yeah.
I mean, that is what ego is. Like, it's like,
Yes.
oh, my perfect papa. Wait, he wants to
and
kill me.
Yondu, and there's lots of those
Yeah.
parallels.
The whole,
Yes.
he may have been your father, kid, but he's not your dad.
Yeah, like
once
it's
again,
it's on brand for
Yeah.
James Gunn to be like, hey,
Found family is his
family,
big thing.
yeah, like not every parental figure is perfect. Some of them want you
Yeah.
to take a harem.
And I think, I'm sorry, did you have something?
No, go ahead.
I think it is an important theme in a lot of the Superman origin stories that the Kryptonians were meant to be kind of a commentary on what could happen to the human race if we get a little too ahead of ourselves
Yeah.
and too big for our britches. And in fact, it wasn't row exploding. Originally, it was like kind of the core of Krypton was made of a uranium isotope or something like that. It was meant to be kind of like a veiled criticism of Earth during the atomic age, and what happens if like we're destroyed through this type of atomic technology that was being explored in the golden age of DC Comics cosmic mythology. So when Richard Donner came to adapt it was Mario Puzo and then the William Goldman and the different screenwriters
Right.
that Richard Donner was working with, they portrayed the Kryptonians as like a technocratic oligarchy of a bunch of snobs
Yeah.
who could not read the signs of their own environmental doom. And I think that was what they were saying Earth could become. The Kryptonians were meant to be like kind of the ivory tower worst of ourselves.
Yeah, they
So-
were a warning. And also, and I know we have got a lot of questions to get to, but like last point, even in the original movie, at one point Superman has to choose between the advice his father gave him, which is you can do a lot of good on this planet, the advice his like adoptive parent, and the advice that Jor-El gave him, which was you cannot get involved under any circumstances. And in that moment, Superman chooses the advice his Kansas dad gave him. So again, it's in keeping with this that he has this break with who his father is, his birth father is, and sort of takes on the ideals of his adoptive father.
Yeah.
On that kind of note, Q-Chala, love your screen name. Not sure if it's a QAnon reference. Hope it's not.
Whoa.
But on the comment section of the breakdown had this fun kind of semantic question. Why do I keep hearing people say Superman is a metahuman? He's not human at all. He's alien. The Flash is a metahuman, maybe Cyborg, but Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter aren't on that list, right? Even Kara is a Kryptonian. I'm getting confused. Because we hear Lex multiple times, right? Who will not call Superman a human, loves to call it a thing or an it or an alien, but also uses metahuman to refer to the blanket, all the soups, so to speak. What do you think that's just accidental? It's just come into the vernacular, like
Seems like a catch-all term,
I
right?
think so,
Like clearly Lex knows. I mean, he does say that alien at one point, so he knows. But it's just easier as like a catch-all term to say, "I hate all these metahumans." I think.
Yeah, I think James Gunn did give a response to this on his threads at one point. I don't mean to misquote him, but I think that is what he said. It's a general term for every super-powered or fantastical being, whether it's someone who is homegrown on Earth or someone who came from another planet or from another reality or from another realm of existence the way gods and deities are. And so I think, yeah, even though it's weird to consider a canine creature like Krypto a metahuman, I think he would still fit within that category.
Yeah, it's not as precise as mutants in the MCU, which is like, a
subset of powered people.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. Or like to establish a difference between mutants and inhumans. But I think that, I think this is probably just like the average person on the street would not be like, well, actually, sir.
It's become the Kleenex of powered individuals.
Exactly.
Not all tissues are Kleenex, but we call them all that. Nate Tricks 1 asks also on the breakdown, Erik, is it possible Jimmy is dating Kara at this point, and knowing she's out of town, he doesn't want any red alerts with other girls because she will find out. It's kind of canon that Supergirl and Jimmy date. I want to use this opportunity to pivot into a whole realm of questions we have around Jimmy Olsen, his Rizz level, the attractiveness and persuasive, charismatic power of Jimmy, because it is it's an important part of the film. It's kind of the MacGuffin that turns the plot. It's also, again, a fun choice. What are your thoughts on this fan theory?
I am so here for the shipping of Jimmy Olsen and Kara Zor-El. I want to see these two together, but I want him to be like such a reacher rather than a settler. I want Jimmy to be one of her many boyfriends. Yes. I don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't think that's currently canon, but I just think it's more possible than not.
It happened on the Supergirl show. I don't know if those are, those are based off of some of the comics. I think it would make him a little bit of a scumbag if he's like exclusively dating her and he's leading on these other like women. But that, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point,
Do we find out Jimmy Olsen is secretly a metahuman with like his like super level of charm and attractiveness? Also, we've been talking in the audience, right? And I've seen this comment in a lot of our Superman content, where I think most people find that whole plot line kind of fun and silly or whatever. But there are some people being like, there's at least some confusion. There's a particular shot, I think the first time we're in the Daily Planet newsroom, where we're introduced to Jimmy, and we see the kind of two young female interns or mailroom employees or whatever, kind of giggling and looking at Jimmy. I think one of them literally says he's so hot or he's so cute,
fine,
something like that. Yeah. And then it cuts back to Jimmy, and he's kind of like nonchalant, just like looking back at them, whatever. Now there's some people that are thinking, because I think the shot preceding that is of Clark. Right? So some people are like, there was a little confusion over, were they smiling and giggling at Jimmy or at Clark?
No, Clark is supposed to be overlooked in society. Like the whole point of Clark when he's Clark is that he's not hot.
Right.
He's not like, he is the most overlooked man.
And he's wearing the hypno glasses.
And he's wearing the hypno glasses.
Like, if anything, I was dying to know what he would look like as the hypno glasses, and would it have been like Henry Cavill? I guess they'd be more into him.
Or Steve Buscemi.
Yeah. He's got like big old teeth.
What's wrong with Steve Buscemi?
Nothing wrong with him, but he looks different than David Cornswet.
I would say more like Kevin James, kind of like.
I think that is based on people who know David Cornswet is hot. And so they're like, well, obviously, if you saw David Cornswet in person, you would be drooling over him. But he's not David Cornswet. He's Clark. And Clark is not supposed to be looked at like that.
We were talking in the office a little bit. I also think this might come down to like some gender lines, other things like that. Because people see somebody who looks like Skylar Gisondo, somebody who looks like David Cornswet. I think I won't speak for everybody, but I think there are some straight men out there where it's like, well, the really tall, jacked guy, that's attractive. And the guy who's a normal height and maybe not jacked, that's not attractive to women, right? But like, I feel like women have different taste than men projecting onto women, right? And like who they find more, obviously there's still plenty of women that find David Cornswet attractive.
Yeah.
Don't mean to say he's uggo, but like Skylar Gisondo in his own way can be just as attractive. Right?
I think that's part of the joke of it
too.
I think that's just so funny that he's just like unaware of his charm on people, or he's aware of it, but he doesn't really like decode it.
Yeah, and he's not like abusing it. I also think it's like, listen, James Gunn in all of his shows takes a shot at like incel culture, toxic masculinity. And to me, this is the most subversive way that he's doing it, because there are all those guys in incel culture. They're like, oh, if you're not jacked with a six, like if you don't have the muscles of Cornswet with the money of Lex Luthor, no woman is going to look at you. This guy is like a photographer for a newspaper. And so like there are toxic dudes that would be like, no woman's gonna look at him, but women are like, oh, he's like so sweet, he's employed, he's like really good at his job, he's obviously not a shitbag, like, you know, like, so they like him. Like, it's just, the women that I've seen defending this online are all about it. The men are like, no way.
I think, speaking of men, Erik proposed an alternate reason in the breakdown.
All I said was my man was packing heat. But I didn't say
It could
what
be that
that
too.
means.
Could
It
be
could
that
mean
too.
that his camera is his weapon of choice. And they're all like, photograph me like one of your French girls, Jimmy Olsen.
He's
That's
a really
right.
good photographer. Listen, we've all been seen those improv couples where it's like she's with him and people are like, he's really funny.
Yeah.
It's like he's probably just a really good photographer.
Yeah.
And he's got great fashion. You saw he has that
He
like
takes
polo.
care of
It's not
himself.
even a polo. It's that collared shirt, and he's got the well-trimmed pants.
You know he's got a trash can liner in his bathroom trash can.
He puts the seat down.
He puts the seat down.
And I agree to all that. I will say, like, I loved this movie, and there were so few nitpicks I had. The entire Tessmacher Olsen thing does beggar just a little belief. I get, we are supposed to believe that this woman who literally looks like a model, like truly like top 10th of a single percent in as far as like traditional beauty standards or whatever, right? That she is so annoying.
No.
So over the top annoying that it is truly painful for this man to spend a single afternoon
She is
with her.
clingy. She's clingy.
She's clingy, and it's her mutant toes. That's the joke. He's
also,
he's
they've
a Jerry
already
Seinfeld.
dated and he's already over it. It's not like she's like a stranger on the street and he's like, I could put up
I get-
with
And I
clingy for
think
2
it
weeks.
really is a Seinfeld bit. Like Jerry's,
Yeah.
the biggest joke with Jerry Seinfeld and Seinfeld is that there all these beautiful women are coming in and out of his life, and he always finds one weird
But if
thing.
they're a close talker or they
They're a
have
close
man
talker,
hands,
man
or,
hands.
yes.
Also,
Yeah.
who's Glinda in Wicked? Look at her boyfriend. He's SpongeBob. Look at
Ethan Slater.
look
No,
at-
account- do you think she's calling up Ethan Slater and being like, please, can we spend the whole day together?
Well, one thing that I do
Benny
wish.
Blanco. It's another great.
This is almost like my third time viewing it. This is a complaint. I honestly, first time watching it, no notes. I thought this was such a funny bit, and I absolutely loved it. Third time watching, I'm like, it would have been at least multi-dimensional if they had a single line where she respected his photojournalism, he respected her selfies, because like I think people can. She is an artist at her game of like getting every single. She composed so many perfect photographs, and I think as to people who love the art of photography, I wish they could have bonded over that in the movie.
But also,
Just-
influencers are already they are deeply insecure.
My non-canon theory is just like you have hypno glasses, maybe he has hypno contacts. Anyways, okay.
One thing that I do want to address as a question: a lot of people in the comments of our videos have said like, "Oh, the hypno glasses was just something Guy believed. That's something Guy Gardner believed,
Like a joke.
No,
it was just a joke." No, James Gunn has
confirmed
said.
it.
James Gunn has confirmed in interviews that Superman is wearing hypno glasses in this movie.
Yeah,
So
it's
that-
the thing from the comics. He confirmed it.
And that pivots well to, we got a super chat here from Grant Zwingelberg. I love your last name, Grant Zwingelberg.
Great.
You had to always be at the end of the alphabetical line in school with a
You'd be
name like
finishing
Zwingelberg.
your
But
homework at your desk.
he said with a super chat, thank you so much. I don't hear people talking about how Jimmy and Perry know Superman is Clark at the end with their last joke about Lois and Clark dating for 3 months. Well, you just, in your statement there, you kind of contradict yourself.
Yeah.
Knowing that Clark Kent is dating Lois Lane is not the same thing as knowing Superman is dating Lois. I think there's a reason they go off by themselves to kiss.
And
right?
that's Superman. That is not Clark.
Yes,
And-
but
and-
nobody sees them together as a couple, him in costume and her.
No, that
right?
is it. So at the end, it is specifically Superman and Lois go off.
Yeah, but nobody sees that. Is what I'm saying. They're not a
Perry
public
does.
couple.
No, that is when Perry and Jimmy say, how long has that been going on? 3
Oh,
months.
okay, fair.
So they mean, how long has Lois been dating Superman? They do not know that Superman is the same as Clark. They do not think Lois is dating
Yes,
Clark.
because they purposely in the newsroom and in other. Okay, that great point.
Yeah, yeah.
They never. Clark and Lois never acknowledge
Never.
dating each
Yeah,
other.
and
Never.
Kat Grant asks Lois about this guy that she's dating, and,
Yeah.
and Lois doesn't give any details.
Yeah, so they just assume for 3 months she has been dating Superman. There's no Clark Kent involved.
That's kind of a fun reversal of like, it's rare that the public figure is dating someone,
Yes.
but the secret identity as not dating
Yeah,
someone.
because in all previous shows, like in the stupid Dean Cain one, they do get together, but everyone's like, "Oh, Lois and Clark are dating," and they still don't know. But I do think it's a fun reversal. You're right that it's like, "Oh,
Yes.
Lois and Superman are dating." There, there's probably one guy that's like, "Poor Clark, he has such a crush on her. Now she's
Yeah.
taken."
Too bad he looks like Steve Buscemi.
I think Steve Buscemi is a
He's a
handsome
good-looking
man.
man.
He is like the godfather of the Rat King movement
Yeah.
that Timothy Chalamet and
Rat
Jeremy
Boy,
Allen White
yes.
are now inheriting the earth.
And to be fair, he's in his like 50s or 60s now. When he was a younger
At
man,
least,
he had a certain kind of
yeah.
charm. He played romantic leads in the 90s.
I mean,
I'm not.
you put Steve Buscemi in a turtleneck, and that's like my hypno glasses in the other
That's
way.
right.
I only see 10 out of 10.
I mean, Boardwalk Empire, he's wearing all those like old-timey suits. He's,
Ooh,
Yeah.
he's pulling
Nucky
some tail on that
Thompson.
show.
Could be knuckle deep in that. I don't know.
Clip that quote. Okay, another super chat from Smiles Frown. Love that name. The real question: where is Batman? LOL.
Yeah.
And Gotham.
In
That's
Gotham.
right. And we know Gotham got referenced.
Yeah.
And we never heard the word Batman or Bruce Wayne or anything like that. But we saw the words Gotham on a street sign as people were exiting Metropolis. And that's all we get and all we need, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I loved about this movie is, yes, it's a major threat, but it happens in short enough amount of time and stays local enough to Metropolis and handled well enough by Superman, Mr. Terrific, the Justice Gang, that Batman looks across the bay and he's like, let's see if it comes close to Gotham, I'll get
Give it
involved.
5 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, they took
But it doesn't become a worldwide threat.
Yes.
Also, the whole thing about like Batman is that even when this is from the animated series, but like even when he forms the Justice League, they're like, "Oh yay, like glad you're in." And he's like, "Oh no, I don't work with a team. I'm putting you guys together, and like every once in a blue moon, I'll work with you." But like he's not.
He doesn't get along well with others.
Yeah, he's not sticking his neck out. Plus, like that commute, it would take him that long just to get into God.
You don't think he doesn't got a back operator?
No.
I'll also say, and I got this question a lot when it came to like Avengers Endgame. If the X-Men existed in the MCU, why weren't they there?
Yeah.
And even Matt Shackman referenced this recently. We couldn't have the Fantastic Four because people would ask why weren't they there helping during Endgame. An answer could be they were there. The camera just wasn't pointed in that direction.
Also,
And
they
maybe
got their
Batman
own
was
crap going on.
It's
Yeah.
the same like with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. Technically, Bruce Wayne was there during the Battle of Metropolis, helping in other ways, and being really pissed off at Superman during it. Like, I think like that's an easy answer. You could just say like he was there, we just didn't see it, and a future movie could show it.
Speaking of that kind of like bigger picture DCU, Robert Ray asking with a super chat on YouTube, who could be DCU's big bad they are working towards? This is kind of assuming James Gunn is following the Marvel playbook of like launching separate franchises and then eventually having them intersect and
With a
team up with a
Thanos
big
type.
bad and maybe having a multi-film kind of villain lingering like Thanos. We don't know that they are really trying to do that, but do you think there could be a big bad lurking in the back of the DCU?
I like Lex Luthor as just kind of a big bad who can keep going back. I want James Gunn to establish really no big bad. I don't need Darkseid anytime soon. And I think this is like a good lesson that I'm sure he has in his head of like, as the guy who really introduced Josh Brolin's Thanos into the MCU, I think he could say, hey, we can have different tyrants, we can have different crime bosses, we can have different billionaires who buy their way into the White House even, but we don't need to have one singular big bad that unites everything, and we can have just a series of stories that are just like personal to the heroes, and villains that are uniquely tailored to those heroes, and just kind of explore that for a bit. And we can put off any kind of uniting effect. Now, sure, I would love to see a Crisis on Infinite Earths, but I can already see it happening. I can already see people on different social media sites, on YouTube, already trying to push this into a multiverse saga, and already trying to push this into Crisis on Infinite Earths. And my answer is, slow your horses.
Yeah.
Let's there's so many other better stories we could explore before we get into a DC multiverse.
Also, I think we as the public are better served to not have Marvel and somebody doing a Marvel imitation.
Yeah.
I would love it to have Marvel and then have somebody playing a completely different game with their storytelling, right? And then like the ebbs and flows and the successes and failures of those two things are not linked. It's not like, well, it was all a failure if we build up to a Justice League movie that's not good and doesn't make a lot of money, right?
Also,
Like, do it different.
Even if they are doing a Marvel, like an imitation of Marvel, look at how long it took to get from Iron Man 1 to Endgame. Like, that was not,
There were a couple Avengers movies in between there.
Right. And I also know that, like, we would get a tag with Thanos every now and then, so it was peppered throughout. But even in, like, the early Avengers movies, it was like, oh, Loki, who was, like, one villain for one person, is now the villain for everyone. I do think it could build up to, like, there are some interesting episodes of TV that were like, oh, Lex gets each of their sort of arch nemeses. Like, he gets the Joker, he gets, like whoever is the Flash's main nemesis at the time. And he's like, hey, none of us have beaten them on our own. Let's band together. And then, the episodes always sort of have them, like, there's no honor among thieves, so they sort of implode. I think that could be interesting if, like, Lex is this, like, mastermind, and 10 movies down the line, he's like, I got everyone's arch nemesis from I drove to Gotham. I drove to Star Labs.
Again, driving. I don't think he's crossing bridges.
No, he's in an old Volkswagen Bug. And he's like, yeah, I'm forming a team of bad guys. Get in the Bug.
And I even think, I mentioned Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like, we saw a pretty decent version of Crisis in the CW series. Like, we just got to see that. We got served that. Let's explore some other non-multiversal things. I mean, realistically, the Flash movie tried to do kind of like a multiversal Flashpoint story. And we all kind of agreed, we don't need that. We don't need to bridge it all together. And Marvel is still at its climax of a multiverse saga. We don't need the DC universe to be that. And I think what James Gunn's Superman did really well is showed how, like, if you do know the comics, Crisis on Infinite Earths kind of killed a lot of what was fun about the Silver Age of the DC comics. It kind of undid a lot of what at the time was considered too silly or too childish for what a lot of comics writers felt was an aging fan base. And in doing so, it kind of put into a side pocket universe a lot of what we loved. That included things like crypto. So by embracing things like crypto and the hypno glasses and hinting at things like Bizarro, I think, and Bizarro is someone who existed post-Crisis. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, like, James Gunn clearly grew up with a certain era of DC Comics, and by the time 1986 happened and Crisis on Infinite Earths happened, which is the same year Alan Moore published Watchmen, like, James Gunn was moving on to his punk rock guitarist phase of his career and wasn't necessarily reading the comics that were coming out after that. Yes, he did pay homage to the Death of Superman writer in this movie, and nothing against Death of Superman and Doomsday and all that, but I think James Gunn was inspired by a more fantastical era, and I think that's what he wants to paint his Gods and Monsters phase with.
I love it. Erickson Ravy with a super chat. Thank you. Kind of circling back to the Kryptonian message there. Could his parents have made the message under duress and purposely damaged the message? It's an interesting headcanon. No. Probably the answer.
I just think
Possible. Who put them under duress?
Yeah, I just think all of these are trying to cope with the fact that they're bad people. I think it's very I think it's very on brand for James Gunn just to be like, hey, these people are not the good people you thought they were.
Yes.
And also, I don't think he would walk it back. I think it would be a cheat.
Yeah, and you don't want anything
that's bad writing.
that lessens the dramatic impact.
Yeah,
of that message,
I just think
right?
it would be bad writing from a guy who has established that he doesn't walk things back. He's not going to,
except for tweets.
Right.
Can I take some questions from our Twitch friends? Over on Twitch, thank you all for joining us, by the way. We love that you're here. Joycey Ladd had a cool thought, saying, I'd love to know, do you think the Hammer of Bravia suit and Ultraman suit were lined with lead? Otherwise, why couldn't Superman just X right through to see it was his clone? I think it's a really cool theory.
We didn't.
Yeah.
Did we see any X-ray vision in this movie?
We did. He looks inside the kaiju to see the explosives
Yes,
going off in
that's
his
right.
stomach. Yeah, I think that might have been the one time we saw X-ray vision. Yeah, I think it's a really, really cool theory. They didn't say it explicitly in the movie. It could also be like Superman just didn't have time. Like he was just so swept up in battle.
You don't
perfectly
think
matched.
to X-ray vision all of your opponents or whatever, right?
Right. Yeah, but I think that's a cool, because clearly that suit has a ton of features on it.
Yes. I also like, again, this portrayal of Superman, and most of the cinematic ones, but like doesn't lean as much on his secondary power set of like laser eyes, his frozen breath, and the X-ray vision.
Yeah.
He's mostly flying and punching in this
uses them
movie.
sparingly.
Right? And I like that because,
Yeah.
again, it is leaning away from the OP Superman of
Right,
literally he
right.
can do everything, right? Like it makes for, I think, like more interesting set pieces. Another Twitch question here coming in from Marvel Pirate. Thank you for your 6-month sub. So Lex found a piece of Superman's hair to get the DNA, but how does Superman even cut his hair? The kaiju didn't burn it off. You kind of touched on this. There's a easy to miss shot in Superman's battle with the engineer where she like throws a nanite thing at him or whatever and does cut a little curl off of his hair, right?
I think the fact that Superman bleeds, the fact that he can shed hair, the fact that his suit gets scorched, I think he is shedding all kinds of parts of himself, of his cells. Like his blood is still in the Arctic snow. If you couldn't find it from his hair, you could find any of the times he spat out blood. And you have to imagine like the Hammer Bravia Ultraman was like the latest clone, but yeah, this guy was getting injured, was losing hair, cells, tissue everywhere.
Yeah, I think he still has turnover. I mean, there's a cool shot from like one of the, I can't remember which movie it is, but like where a strand of his hair is like holding up a weight. It's like it's got to be like one of the 80s movies where they're like it's like in a museum and it's like just show like even his hair is like really strong, but it's not like I'm sure when he's in battle and he's getting punched, some of it's probably fallen out.
Yeah. I mean, Gattaca style.
Yeah,
You just find a
he
hairbrush.
scrubs himself down every day.
Because Superman to shave must.
Yeah.
Like he must be able to shed hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we never even see a real 5 o'clock shot of Superman in this film, do we? Though we know David Cornsweck can grow a glorious beard, bless his heart. Snowden94 on Twitch saying, I'm surprised at how little of a role Wendell Pierce had.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for the Daily Planet staff. This movie is a brisk 2 hours. They pack a lot in, they go fast. And maybe one of the sacrifices you have to make there is you can't spend as much time at the Daily Planet. You pointed out, I think in Friday's Breakroom, we don't get a ton of reporter Clark in this movie. And I think you have to make some sacrifices somewhere, right?
I think there's some Wendell Pierce on the cutting room floor scenes for sure. You don't get an actor of that caliber without filming some extra.
And I think a great thing about that character and that actor, he doesn't need a lot. He can just get give me that thing. Blah, blah, blah. He's kind of like, he's all direction and like chomping on a cigar. He's very like matter of fact, right? Yeah.
I would love a series, even if it was a 6-episode series just around the Daily Planet newsroom. Because I loved everyone. The casting was perfect. I mean, if you think Wendell Pierce wasn't in this, Christopher McDonald as Ron Troop had like no lines in this movie. I think we heard him one time when he was like confirming the Superman footage over the phone, and then he still gets a seat on the T-Jet more than Steve Lombard does, which I just think is great. I think it's so funny.
That's a great point. So we've gotten the news that these things are just in development. We don't know if we're going to see them, but then we might get a Jimmy Olsen and a Mr. Terrific spinoff series, not together. 2 series are being developed, presumably for HBO Max, around those characters. I mean, a Jimmy Olsen series would, in theory, feature a lot of Perry White, right? And all of the other newsroom. Would it be weird to do Jimmy Olsen series and not have Lois Lane prominently featured?
Yeah, that is a good question. It seems like it would be weird. I mean, the only thing I can see is like they have, again, in the sort of like the DC Supergirl Flash, blah, blah, blah. They did silo Jimmy Olsen to the Supergirl series. And he basically is like, hey, your cousin told me to keep an eye on you. So there is, like we have seen him go off by himself. it could be like Jimmy in a new city. Oh, at the end of the series, it doesn't work out. He goes back to the Daily Planet.
Well, you want to see him at the Daily Planet, don't you?
Yeah, but I think you're right.
this-
Like, how do you do that without Lois? How do you do that without Clark?
Maybe it's easier to write her out than to write him out, right?
Yeah.
And then you can keep Beck Bennett, you keep Wendell Pierce, right? Like the whole supporting cast can be there doing fun stuff. Maybe you get some cameos from a Guy Gardner or a Hot Girl or whatever.
Yeah.
You could have, I mean, everyone in this movie is good. Like, everyone on the call sheet is great. Everyone who gets a line crushes. You could have just Rachel Brosnahan show up in one episode or something like that. The way Nick Fury was like in the pilot of Agents, or he had like a couple appearances in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but like, enough to remind us that this is the same world.
Yes.
But yeah, like scenes with like Jimmy and Cat Grant, scenes with Jimmy and Wendell Pierce or Perry White, scenes with Jimmy and anybody from Luther Corp would be really fun. Like everybody, the guy who's getting the back rub, who's like,
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean,
to say that Lois is taking a sabbatical, or like she's overseas on a reporting job.
Yes, there's ways to work around it. I mean, I wouldn't have believed it would work, but then we saw a Penguin show that had no other characters from the Batman and worked so well.
Well, also like Peacemaker, like this is a thing that especially James Gunn does well, is taking these characters that you're like, I love this guy, let me see more of this guy, and shooting them off and being like, yep, let's see just them. But even Peacemaker, until the very end of season 1, you don't see anyone else from the DCU in there.
Yeah.
Although I guess Amanda Waller was in the pilot.
That's a good question I saw pop up in the breakdown. And actually, let me see. I'll try to grab the name of the person who left this in the breakdown comment section. But somebody asked, what's up with Amanda Waller? Wasn't she running things?
Argus,
Argus, the last we saw? Why is she not in that room with Flag and the other officials?
And they even said Flo Crawley is the director of Argus now. So I don't know what that means.
Maybe are we about to find out what happened to her in Peacemaker season 2?
I mean, that is possible because we do end Peacemaker season 1 with like her daughter basically outing her as like a monster. Like she goes on the news and is like, hey, this is my mom. She like wanted to kill a bunch of people. She's a monster. And then like it cuts to like Amanda Waller being like, well, shit. So it's very possible that after Peacemaker, they were like, hey, we're demoting you.
Well, in Creature Commandos, she's there at the beginning,
That's
right?
true, but yeah. Where does Creature Commandos fall in the timeline of...
Ooh, that I don't know. I would say maybe far beyond this because Rick Flag looks way older, but way more fit.
So
I don't know.
he didn't wear nary an orange shirt in this show either.
James Gunn did say, a lot of people were asking him questions on Threads, and he goes, there's an upcoming official Peacemaker podcast that's going to answer all of our canon questions.
Okay.
So I think after that podcast comes out, we'll have to listen to it and do a follow-up.
More homework
Kudos
for
to
us.
him for committing to it, though, because I feel like most people would just be like, it falls on wherever it needs to fall in the timeline.
Well, he'll also do whatever kind of math he needs to make his storytelling work. Yeah. Mando 44646 had asked that on the breakdown about Waller. Great. Any other comments, questions coming in?
On Twitch, we have Black Ass Billy Gunn. I don't know. All right. Do you think Mr. Terrific being the only one of the Justice Gang to help look for Superman is hinting that he'll be the only one of the 3 invited to the Justice League? I think he definitely has a closer relationship with Superman. And I think if we get a Mr. Terrific spinoff series, as is being rumored, I think he's the only one of the 3 who will get, his own show. Although I think Hawkgirl, we'll see. I think we'll see what arc she has on Peacemaker season 2. My theory has been that poor Guy Gardner is going to be killed off at the beginning of Lanterns. Not that I want him to die, but like maybe this begins with him dying the way like Watchmen begins with the comedian dying,
Well, we do. I mean, like there is a different Green Lantern in the Justice League, right? It's not Guy Gardner. It's John
Stewart.
John Stewart.
In the most recent like kind of animated.
Right.
League,
Yeah. But that also is the character that then like sort of has a romantic dalliance with Hawkgirl, and then you find out a lot of her backstory. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were like, oh, this is a fun character, but we need to get a new. And since there can't be 2 Green Lanterns protecting the same planet, like that's how Green Lanterns work. They each sort of protect different planets and parts of the galaxy.
So we know there's going to be at least 3 Green Lanterns on planet Earth in the
but
future,
I'm
right?
sure they've got to be aliens, right? I would think.
Yeah. I think Hal Jordan is kind of like a senior member of the Corps.
Yeah.
And
Middle management,
Or I think like they're investigating something or a string of crimes.
Yeah.
And that's why I was thinking, oh, maybe the first crime is the death of Guy Gardner, the murder of Guy Gardner.
I like that theory.
So they bring in an elder member of the
Yeah.
Corps who's
Yeah.
kind of the old grizzled cop.
And kind of like an internal affairs. Like
Yeah.
when the crime
Yeah.
involves an officer of the law, you have to...
Or like the story
Yeah.
of the Santa Claus told by others' perspectives. Who I guess Rick and Morty did this recently too with Jerry, right? Where it was the Easter Bunny, but with Jerry, and Jerry hits the Easter Bunny. So yes, I think like before Jon Stewart can take over his stewardship of planet Earth, maybe they have to investigate what the hell happened with Guy Gardner.
I like that. Two other questions related to the Justice Gang that cropped up. One, do we think the president of Moravia is definitely dead?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious about this too. There's no way he could have survived that, right?
I think that was like
Could he have landed in a swimming pool?
didn't look like it.
No.
I think that was the whole thing with Kendra saying I'm not like Superman.
Yeah,
and dropped him to his death.
I mean, it would have had to be like some sort of freaky accident, or like he shattered every bone in his body,
Yes.
and now he's going to be in traction. And
Maybe
it'll be a
people are
joke.
just thinking that because like we don't see his like body literally liquefy or whatever as he hit the pavement. But that's because they didn't want this to be an R-rated film, and so like you hold back some of the graphic violence.
Yeah.
On that note, and this is not a question, and again, I don't know how much weight this has in the fan base, but I saw at least multiple comments reference that Hot Girls Screech took them out of it.
I
or like
saw,
some
I
criticism
saw that.
of that.
I saw that. Well, there were a lot of like weirdos online comparing. Listen, there were a lot of Snyder Bros. Let's be real, that were doing a side-by-side of the close-up shot of her screeching, which is not a flattering shot if you freeze frame on it, next to like Wonder Woman being gorgeous. And they're like, how Zack Snyder portrays women, how James Gunn portrays women. And it's like...
Of course, there's 10 female speaking roles in this film, and they picked one.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, she's like mid screech. I thought the screeching was like great.
It was. I mean, again, the thing about this film and James Gunn's portrayal is like he doesn't hold back the comic book dorkiness.
Yeah.
Right? Whether that's crypto, whether that's hypno glasses, or whether that's like, hot girl screeches like a hawk. Like, comic books, baby.
She's got fucking wings, and you're talking about her like how her screeching like a hawk is what brought you out of it.
Yes.
That's a strange criticism.
Yes. And I think, but all that said, like, if you are dyed-in-the-wool MCU or like Snyder Bros, and like you need your superhero movies to be so grounded
Gritty
in some
and
kind
real or whatever.
of recognizable reality, I get that. Some of this more cartoony comic book stuff can be a hard pill to swallow, but like you have to be able to swallow that pill to enjoy this film, right?
It's true. I mean, obviously all directors are not for everyone. Some people don't like Tarantino. Some people, like some people don't like Hitchcock. Some people don't like Gunn. But if you went into this movie not expecting it to be a James Gunn movie, that's on you.
Talking animals, silly
talking
things,
like funny
bright colors.
robots, and that's a strange. It's strange to like go to a Stanley Kubrick movie and be like, I wanted it to be like a P.T. Anderson movie.
Actually, there's enough common DNA.
Yeah, that's true. I guess.
I think that's a nice place to wrap it up. Dismissing any haters or naysayers. Again, nobody here is saying this is a perfect movie. I don't know that I've seen one of those in my life. And you can pick apart anything, and there's always, in 2 hours, there will be 30 seconds that doesn't work for you at a minimum. But I'm being completely honest when I say that, like, watching this movie makes me very excited for the DCU.
Same.
Now I'm almost more excited for Supergirl after watching this movie because this was so well done and so good in that, like, what does it look like when he's not writing and directing, when he's just producing, right? Like, the advantage Kevin Feige has is he doesn't write or direct anything, so, like, he can kind of just produce. That doesn't mean all the movies feel the same, but, like, his level of involvement in theory is about the same. James Gunn's level of involvement in these DC properties is going to vary wildly, right? And does a Supergirl that he neither writes nor directs feel of a piece with Superman? Or do you think it will feel like as different as the Batman feels from Superman?
I'm excited about this portrayal specifically because I think, like, I was a fan of like the 80s Helen Slater version, although it's like campy as hell if you watch it now. I was a fan of like the Supergirl TV show, but you could tell that they were like, oh, her cousin's sort of like a Boy Scout, so she should be a Girl Scout. Like, she never has any like moral questions. Like, the TV show had more nuance just because they had so many seasons. but she was portrayed as the same side of her cousin's coin. Like, oh, I'm doing this because it's what's right. And so to see like a party girl drunk with like a misbehaved dog, like I love that take on the character that's like gonna come in and is gonna be like, I'm leaving again. Can you watch my dog again? Cool. Like, cause we all have that friend, and I don't think we need like her to be exactly like Superman. So I'm glad that he like made that change. I think he just tweeted that he like really trusts the director, he really trusts the writer. So, and I can't remember who the director is, but he's done some good stuff.
The guy from I, Tonya?
Yes.
Craig Gillespie.
Yeah,
Yes.
who has done nuanced, you know, trashy female characters well in his lifetime.
Yeah. Some questions that we're seeing come through are like, why is Supergirl still drunk if she's back on a planet with the yellow sun? And it's just kind of like, my take on that is, oh, well, she drank the alcohol. It was metabolized. The metabolism process started when she was digesting it. And now the effects on her liver and on her motor functions are still the same based off of how hard she was going.
Yes. Also, we don't know that she's inebriated in that shot. That can be her sober vibe.
Yeah.
Also,
even when he's hurt, it takes like a direct dose of the sunlight to cure him.
Yes.
So she could be just like super drunk, but since she's only been there for a couple minutes.
Also, she could be inebriated off something else. She could be popping Xannies and perks. You know what I mean? Sids and beans or whatever. You know, we don't know how the sun color affects those things. Okay. Great. Do you guys have any other parting thoughts?
No.
Any shout out? We have some. There's a couple other comments here that are a little off topic that maybe we'll do in the just live stream.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for watching. Stick around. We might have some more Superman content coming up in the break room. Who knows? It's going to be a big next week and a half, 2 weeks, heading into. Can you believe it? Next week's already Fantastic Four.
Damn.
Insane.
Unbelievable.
And next week, end of next week, is San Diego Comic-Con. So, though it might be a muted San Diego Comic-Con as far as big studio presence, we're still anticipating getting some news, maybe a trailer, maybe some interesting panels with great information coming out. So the break room's going to be active the next 2 weeks. We'd love to have you here live. We'd love to have you here watching after the fact. Leave comments on anything we didn't get to, big lingering questions from Superman, and have yourself a great day, everybody. Yeah.